starting to fit the factory style cold air inlet. The factory came with a driver's side cold air inlet, so it's pretty much just a bolt-in. You've got this one piece here that goes down. You kind of see it there down in front of the radiator. Takes in fresh air there. It looks like this. It has one screw that goes to the inner fender there, so that bolts together there. Then this piece, I guess you call that the middle piece, snaps onto there, just like that. Where'd this other piece go? Then you have this adapter that goes under the air cleaner. Couldn't be easier. It's just kind of chintzy plastic that all fits together. And the last piece is this hose that just kind of goes over both of those inlets there and basically creates a factory cold air system for this. So you guys know I spent quite a bit of time adding another snorkel to this air cleaner for a dual snorkel setup. So I'm going to basically do the same style thing to that side. We got went in and ordered two sets of pieces, or two sets of parts. Snap that thing in there, maybe. And then I'm going to try to adapt this piece. I'm obviously gonna have to reorientate this part here to face that way and try to make it as factory looking as possible. So got some plastic and Jethro work ahead of me there. So I'll next project will be how to make that connection here on the passenger side. Okay, working on these fresh air intakes. These plastic pieces are for the Firebird, but these snorkels here are actually off of like a 79 L82 Corvette. It's a dual snorkel piece I bought. Remember, this air cleaner was kind of a bastard son. I have no idea what it actually came from and all. Had zero snorkels on it. It was definitely a shaker hood. Obviously they're unique that they had that lift and mount the shaker on it, but no idea what it's actually correct for. So I'm going to I had to remove that little thermac valve on this side to actually clear the shaker. The shaker actually overlaps it a bit here, so I've had to remove that, and so I'm going to weld a plate on there to seal it off and make that look a little better. But as well, these plastic scoops don't fit very well in there. When you jam them in there, they close up like this. So I'm going to drill a couple holes and put this in and rivet that in place to hopefully get a better seal there, keep it from popping off when you're driving and that kind of thing. So I've got the driver's side figured out pretty easy. Just use the factory pieces. On this side, I've taken that little bracket that held the evap canister out, and I've removed for now the overflow. And so I'm going to work on a way to get that fresh air to snake in from this come under this area here, hopefully allow room for that overflow, and then down in here to get air ahead of the radiator like the factory side. So the goal is there to get fresh air, lower intake temps, and hopefully get it to run a little better. Well, we got the dual snorkel set up on. Took it for its first drive over the weekend. Ran pretty well. Obviously, again, this side over here, the driver's side, is the factory piece. It has a cute little bracket that holds this onto here. I didn't have one of those, so I just took a little metal strap and made that one. Looks a little hokey, but it serves it well. And over here on this side, I ended up, I tried a couple different options. I was thinking of, modifying a factory piece, see if I could reorient it to make it work on the right-hand side. But seeing as how those things are going for 40 or 50 bucks a piece, I thought it might make more sense just to find something a little simpler. So I ended up going with this. It's like for people who do woodworking. It's like an ABS plastic, like for a dust system. Like if you have a built-in suction system that picks up wood shavings, I think, when they're doing whatever woodworking. I don't know. I'm not a woodworker myself, but these hoses are about 4 inches in diameter, and the outputs of these adapters are, so it just fit over there really well. I just sanded it and created some rough spots there, so this would have something to bite into on this. And I just used a 4-inch coupler to this. This looks a little ghetto here. This is just your Rice-A-Roni silicone coupling that you get from Autobone. So I'll probably end up taking that back off and knock on a little bit of the shiny off those hose clamps and making it look black, so it looks a little more factory. But that's what I ended up with. Ran really well. You can definitely tell a little bit of difference. I did go up on my timing a little bit on this thing, as you'll see, and set it to the 12 degree initial setting. Disconnected the vacuum like the factory suggested, and still was getting a little bit of spark knock at really low loads. So if your foot barely on the throttle with it and lock up, in the engine, 2000 RPM near there, you start getting some light spark knock. So nothing that's going to tear the engine up like you get a wide open throttle or anything like that, but it's shocking how much vacuum advance we're getting, and I suspect that's the culprit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try doing something where I can control that vacuum advance. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to try and see if I can dial that in. My plan is to limit the vacuum advance travel and go up a little bit more on my base timing, because right now with all the vacuum advance coming in, I can't really turn my base timing up at all, or I'll definitely get more spark knock at light throttle like we're getting. So that's the plan. I'm going to show what I'm doing on the distributor and things. I also did try hooking up the EGR. I used this thermal switch here and hooked it up to a port vacuum source. I do have a new EGR valve on there. You can maybe you can see it there. I'm not sure how well you can see in there. Let me put a light on it. But that's actually the EGR valve there. It's a Chinesium one that says OEM, and the car did run a little better, it seemed like. And an EGR, by definition, what it does is it just introduces inert gas from the exhaust into the intake, and that displaces free oxygen in the combustion chamber. Causes a slower burn, causes a burn at lower temperatures, so that's why you're able to run a little more timing with EGR. But it did help out the situation, but adding on emission stuff is not really what I really want to do here. So anywho, if it works, it works. If not, but I'd rather not have the heartache of the any possibility of any soot or any debris coming into the intake. There can be some fouling from an EGR system. There are some benefits and there are some trade-offs. So we're going to try to get it to work properly without the EGR hooked up, and I'm going to experiment with the vacuum advance, and then play around with some total timing and see what's happening there. So I took the air cleaner off to do the update for the distributor, the vacuum advance issue. So you can see a little better here, so I thought I'd explain the EGR a little bit better. So this is our EGR vacuum solenoid. So when this sees vacuum, it opens up and allows a little bit of exhaust gas into the intake mixture. So on Pontiac heads, you have this exhaust crossover between the heads. That's where the exhaust would use the original thermal choke. I just could not find one of these pieces, so I had to go with an electric choke. But So this is all seeing a engine exhaust. So you're actually pulling a little bit of an engine exhaust. This opens up and allows it into a hole in the valley of the factory cast iron intake here. So this is actually a smaller area car. Obviously, I think this is 74, 75. Use the same intake if I'm not mistaken. So, but it's hooked up to port vacuum. So at idle, there's no vacuum at port, but as you get going with higher engine speed, this vacuum will start to come up, and as the coolant temperature going through here warms up, it gets up to temperature, this vacuum switch opens and allows the EGR valve to see the port vacuum source. So that's again, as much as I hate to hook up an emissions device, it did run a little bit better, at least according to the butt dyno. But that's a little bit more on the EGR. So I'm going to get to tearing that distributor off and going from there. right, so that's that was right at 12 degrees there, like the sticker referred to. Speed was about 700 RPM roughly, so it's pretty close. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock down the distributor there. If you leave the distributor loose, it will it'll automatically loosen and foul up your readings. So I'll lock that down and put it all back together and take it for a drive. So this is my I guess junk or spare distributor here, but this is what I'm going to use to mock up a way to control the vacuum here. They do make adjustable vacuum diaphragms, but from what I've seen, you can only get ones where you can adjust the rate at which they move and not necessarily how much travel they go through. I could be wrong on that. I'm not an expert. I've maybe spent 20 minutes there on the interwebs, but basically, obviously the cam turns this piece, turns your rotor, has your cap up here that distributes the spark to the spark plugs via the spark plug wires. So as this thing spins up, these weights come out and give you some advance, but as well the vacuum comes in. So if you're at low throttle or at idle, you've got a lot of vacuum, it'll actually pull this in and rotate this thing and give you more vacuum advance. So what I was thinking of trying for this, just as a little bit of sheet metal here, might be a little hard to see, but basically putting a slot here that this screw would go into, and then cutting a slot here for this screw to go into. So basically in the car I'd be able to move this forward this way to limit the vacuum advance and pull it this way to allow more full vacuum advance. So that's the plan. I'm sure this is definitely the lazy man's approach to doing this. There's probably ways that make a lot more sense, but for now this will be a way to allow me to shave off some of that vacuum advance and maybe go a little bit higher initial timing and see how the engine likes that. So alright, so let me turn this fan off. Hey Billy Dog. So what I did here is have this little flat piece of sheet metal. I've got it set pretty far forward here to again try to limit the travel of this. Probably might be a little hard to see, but this covers up a lot of the travel it can make. The end of the travel is going to be about right here. And so I made some marks, looking straight down. So this is the 0 or the initial. And without the restriction or without this stop, it would go clear to the full. So if I pump it up here, it should start to move, I think, around 5. And then by 10, it's got to its full travel here. I'll show you that again. Where if you take our timing limiter 3000 off here, again here. Again, it should start to move around 5. And it keeps going up. And it got to its full travel right around 20 last few times I did it. This is just a plastic Chinesium gauge, but you get a feel there for how far it limited that travel. Basically cut it in about half there from my Jethro math there. So I'm probably going to start at cutting it off by half the vacuum advance, and see how that goes. If I remember right, it gives about another 25 degrees of timing. If I remember right, I'd have to go through the video, and I did figure that out earlier. I'll show you how I did that. But so yeah, I'm gonna start cutting that off, allow me to put a little more base timing in it, and hopefully not be in that detonation zone. So I mocked it up on here, so it'd be I wouldn't have to pull the distributor out of the car to do it. So it should be pretty easy to do. I'm gonna go and pull the cap and rotor off and get to it. That's about a total timing of 27 degrees, about 750 RPM at idle. I put it again up to about 12 degrees. I cut back a little bit of the vacuum. I'm gonna go take it for a quick drive, a quick rip, and see how it runs. But it definitely started up hot a little better. Before, I think even at 12 degrees, it was darn near 40 degrees of total timing. So that vacuum advance was just going crazy there. So we're going to take it for a little drive and see how it goes. Alright, ladies and germs, probably one of my least favorite things to do is these. This is our transmission output speed gear here on the back of our 704R. You can also see the tangled mess there that is the vacuum switch and the input for lockup. I think one of my upcoming videos I'm going to fix that and put that on the firewall and make it less of a mess there. This kind of wiring practices drives me crazy, so we're gonna correct that here in an upcoming video. But for right now, this thing is not leaking. This is the speed sensor input to the Dakota digital gauges. So I'm going to clean this out and pop this up, and unfortunately it seems like 20 gallons of transmission fluid comes out when you do this, so not looking forward to it. But pop that out, and I have a new gear, new housing, new seals and everything. Put that in. Hopefully that cures our speedometer bouncing issue. So anyway, let's get started. So here we have the unit out of the car. You notice a couple things right away. Is it looks like it was chewed on by some kind of rabid dog right here on these threads. I'm not sure what was going on there. Probably putting the speedo cable on and off. But from looking at this, it looks like it's got, see, 2, 4, 5 broken teeth on there. That may have been the source of the bounce in the speedometer. This actually square, now that I look at it, doesn't look too bad, so I'm guessing it may have just been skipping a tooth from time to time. The drive gear in the transmission is blue. I'm assuming that's the right color. For this is a 43 tooth black gear, so as long as you buy the right color of gear, the teeth should match up. This is the Amazon Chinesium one I bought. It's got a nice new shaft. It's got some assembly lube type stuff on it, but the shaft is nice and smooth in there where the bearings ride, or sorry, those oil seals ride. So this one probably having some miles on it. You can see there it's pretty rough. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but that's actually pretty rough. Also jumped out at me too. You can show these side by side here. Looks like someone just jammed an extra seal in that to try to keep it from stop leaking. It did still drip with the factory speedo cable on it. This one, hopefully that one new seal will be fine, but it looks like somebody just jammed an extra seal into that cavity and put it back together, hoping it would stop that leak. The Dakota Digital sensor has like a rubber seal there that meets against there, so that kept it from dripping with the speed sensor in it. But with just the speedometer screw-on cable, it definitely still dripped. So we're going to replace this tore-up housing. That O-ring seal looks like it's in pretty good condition, but obviously I think they were chasing the leak there just by jamming extra seals into that. So we'll get the new piece on there and see if that takes care of our speedometer bouncing issue. Test drive. The speedometer bouncing issue is fixed, thank goodness, and the car liked a little more base timing and a little less vacuum, so it's no longer spark knocking around 2,000 RPM. Got good vacuum, stopping well, so pretty happy. We're going to just drive it from here for a while and see how she goes. Well, folks, in this video we ended up with 12 degrees base at idle, and we were scaled that vacuum restrictor down and ended up getting it down to about 13, 14 degrees vacuum, which would give us a total time of about 25, 26 degrees. So the car ran really well on that. Actually, it probably the best run it had today on that. No spark knock at low throttle, like it had been doing. So actually got a lot of miles on it today, had a lot of fun. So definitely a turning point for the car. I know it's kind of confusing. You know, I don't know why the factory well, it's not the factory distributor, but it's a factory Pontiac distributor had so much vacuum advance on it. But you know, if they think the car was running okay at about 5 degrees initial timing and had about 26 degrees vacuum in it, which, you know, falls out and made it a real dog at wide open throttle when you lose that vacuum advance. So having us take that base of 5 up to 12 really livened up the car, made it a lot more responsive, and again, not to worry about tearing up anything if it's not spark knocking like it was. So anyway, thanks so much for staying through this video. I know it was probably pretty arduous compared to something fun, but next week we'll be doing something a little more fun. the wifey put an ixnay on the vintage air, so we're going to find something we like about sweating while we're riding in this car. So, but anyway, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll keep the content as fun as possible. Thank you.